Tip Titans. Don't just bet, invest.
Welcome to the inaugural Tip Titans podcast. My name is Christian, I'll be your host today, and I'm joined here by two of the founding Titans on the Tip Titan platform, NBA and AFL specialist Joel Williams and Greyhound specialist Chris Borg. Welcome, gents.
Great to be here, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great to be down.
Awesome. Joel, start with you, mate. You're enjoying a great NBA season so far?
Yeah, it's been great, mate. Specifically for the platform, the Tip Titans platform, but really enjoying the season. The All-Star break was a good break for the team, and we're really enjoying the season so far, and hopefully everybody's enjoying the service.
Yeah, and AFL's just around the corner. We're going to have that hectic period of the crossover between AFL and NBA.
Yeah, it's always the biggest time of year for us. Just our annual calendar. When you look at, you've been focused on NBA for a period of time, and then the AFL just peaks its head. It's a lot of work, but we can't wait to get into it. It's our favourite time of year.
Yeah, nice, mate. And Chris, putting together another profitable year so far. I know specifically for Tip Titans, you finished the year really strongly as well, but you've started off in the profit again this year.
Yeah, it's been pretty good start to the year. I mean, December and January was pretty flat and rough, but things are starting to look really good. March through, hopefully keep running well.
It's great to be sitting here with you guys today. Both got incredible value to offer to your respective membership bases, but we wanted to start off this series, if you will, with something that I feel really unites punters. You guys obviously have separate membership bases, but something that both your membership bases are dealing with is sort of the general sports betting landscape. How to navigate through that, what bookmakers, what strategies and tactics they are employing these days to remain profitable, and then it's sort of a battle. But I feel like like I said, this topic really unites punters. So it'd be really interesting to get your thoughts on a few topics, but a good place to start, I thought, would just be sort of, if you can both tell me, when did you start providing, or when did you start offering your tips to the public, and sort of what led you to doing that in the first place? If we'll start with you, Chris.
Yep. So I guess, it was a long time ago that I decided to start offering tips. And the main reason was basically being unable to wager myself anymore, because every single bookmaker that exists in Australia restricted me. And I sort of thought, well, I put years and years into working out how to beat the market. Now I can't even play the market. So, what am I going to do with those years of work? Hard work. How am I going to generate revenue? And I guess I just thought, well, I can help other people. I can tell other people, give other people the value that I've gained over those years, and then they can wager in their accounts, until they get restricted and whatnot. So that's sort of what led me in that general direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, very similar for me. I mean, you go back to kind of when I decided to launch Bet with Joel, and the landscape was a little bit different then. There was less bookies as well. So, I mean, I always say to our clients now, and now's the best time to be a bettor since I've been in the game, just because there's more options with bookmakers, and that's great, because you have to get restricted from so many more books. So you've got a longer lifespan in the game, you've got more money to be made before, yourself are completely restricted. And, I've started even, when I started Bet with Joel, it was a decision to, like Chris said, generate a revenue stream from what you're good at, because if you're good at something, you probably shouldn't do it for free. And we decided to go down that path. But even over the last couple of years, the changing of the landscape has reignited my interest in exploring, getting on myself, and I've definitely started turning over a lot more volume in betting over the last couple of years than the prior couple of years before that, because the landscape is better. But as you alluded to, Christian, there are still some definite struggles in this industry that other investment industries don't have to deal with, and that's just the nature of the industry we're dealing with at the moment.
That's an interesting point. That actually sort of segues into my next point, what you were saying about getting your turnover back up. I'm really interested to know what you think has changed in the bookmaking industry, sort of since you started offering that public service. I know, Joel, you've been doing it for about 5 years, and Chris, you're probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So what have you sort of seen? Like, what changes have you seen just in regards to bookmaking? So essentially, just being able to get a bet on, and not just for yourselves but for your members as well. What's changed in those years?
Yeah, well, I'm really jealous of Chris and other racing codes, because MBLs, minimum bet laws, have been brought in for some racing codes, and I can't wait for the day that we can leverage that in sport. But that's been the main one that I've seen change over that period.
Yeah. So that's been a really positive thing coming out of racing, and obviously, there's lots of trainers and punters and whatnot that lobbied for that, and it's finally coming into play. It would be nice for there to just be a blanket. There should be a blanket, in my opinion, it should be a blanket minimum bet law on any market a bookmaker is willing to offer. And if a bookmaker is not willing to accept that liability for each individual, then they shouldn't be allowed to offer the market. It's as simple as that. They shouldn't be offering something to someone that someone else isn't allowed to make a play at.
Because nobody's forcing them to place markets
Yeah.
up. So if you're prepared to put a market on the market,
Yeah.
or a price on the market, then you should be willing to take bet to win 500, bet
Yeah.
to win 1,000.
Yeah.
Specifically in the larger markets.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about global sports, you're talking about the NBA, and for me to jump on one of the major bookmakers in Australia that make billions of dollars a year and be able to bet a maximum bet of $20 on a head-to-head market in the NBA is just ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully we start to see something that racing saw soon enough, and I know there are some real active people pushing for that, and I'll definitely be behind that course for sure.
Yeah. Some other things that I'll just say that have changed in the bookmaking landscape is the bookies have got a little bit worse with the tactics they use to, I guess, verify and allow you to withdraw money and whatnot. They're very, they're using certain laws such as anti-money laundering laws and whatnot in a way that they're not supposed to be used. They're asking for bank statements, proof of income. They want to see exactly where the money's come from that's being bet. Only if you're winning. If you're losing, they never ask for that stuff, which is what it really should be. Be looked at. So yeah, I mean the bookies are sort of going in that direction a little bit, which is a negative thing. But like Joel said before, having 80 plus bookmakers in Australia right now is very good for the punter. There's lots of battles.
Yeah.
Lots of ways you can go.
Just going back to what you said about the bookies asking for bank statements. Why do you think that? Why are they doing that? Is it literally to stop you withdrawing your money, or is it a delay tactic? Why do you think they're doing that?
It's making it as difficult as possible for you, so that you just give up, and then they don't have to basically give you the money you've won.
Because they know that people run bowler accounts. I mean, I think if we're talking about this industry honestly, we know pro bettors and us. Everyone uses bowler accounts. And so they want to, I guess, make it as difficult as possible for people doing that, so it prevents them from hitting that bookie again with more bowler accounts. And some bookies are very good at doing that.
So it's basically like, once they don't want your business, they literally never want to see you again, kind of thing. It's like, do anything they can do to never see you again.
Yeah.
Period.
And never, and they make it as difficult as possible so that you don't open another, your next bowler with them. They want you to go to other bookies. They go, this guy's smart. Let's make it as, let's really stress them out, trying to get their money out so they don't go back.
Twice before opening another.
And it does work, because there's been bookmakers that I've had such a fight with. You just go, I'm not opening another one with them again. So it sometimes works. So
It makes me want to get them more, you know, those particular bookmakers, but
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of regular punters would have gone through that, but I guess for people that don't probably regularly punt or you know are thinking about getting into it, it's hard to explain that to someone that a business wouldn't want to take on more business. You know, not most businesses want as much business as they can get, but it's sort of the reverse in this industry, isn't it? I mean, I was explaining that to my mother the other day about how they can literally ban you from. She just couldn't wrap her head around it, you know. Why do you think that is? Why is it purely for the profits?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's similar to a casino and you know, being able to count cards. They're refusing service to customers that are just taking a big a big chunk of their profits away from them. And technically, if they were unable to restrict people, if they weren't restricting people, there's probably a good chance nearly every bookmaker in Australia would go out of business. So it is a part of the business that needs to be there, but to the level they've taken it is just way over the top. Like minimum bet laws are decent and you know are good, and what the bookmakers should be doing is using whoever they think is sharp as a catalyst for them to move their markets. If he's betting this side, we move it this way. And you know what? If they do that, just based on the minimum bet laws, they're still going to be making profit. You know?
And that's the way a fair market works.
Yeah.
You know, when smart information comes on either side of the market, that market should move. Just like in anything, like in stocks, anything, a market should move when smart money comes for one side. But the issue in our industry right now is that smart money isn't able to even back a side.
Yeah.
And that is the issue with our industry right now. You know.
Yeah, it's getting pretty grim, isn't it? It's you know, it's particularly for yourselves, but also you know some of the members that you've got that you know we see stories and we read feedback about guys that are just can't even get a bet on, and they're obviously not professionals themselves. They're just following a service. But yeah, I mean. Sort of leads me into my next point, and we've sort of touched on it already. But what tactics have you sort of seen from these bookies that you know you've probably experienced it yourself, but like have you also spoken to some of your members and just been blown away with some of the things that they're being told by these books? And I guess on the flip side of that, have you heard of anything along the lines of you know a losing punter? You know, tactics literally being the opposite, you know, of letting them on for more kind of thing. Have you seen any of that happening?
It's actually amazing what you'll get restricted for when you're winning. So I personally, have I've had an account that I lost $35,000 in, and I was restricted because they could see that the prices I was taking were still beating the start prices. So they knew that I was sharp, even though that I was on a downswing in that account. Whereas if someone is, you know, there's guys that I personally know that lose $2 million a year sports betting. You know, they're successful businessmen that do it recreationally, and the bookmakers are screaming for them to use them. You know, they'll fly them to events.
We need to get their accounts.
Yeah, they fly them to events. So yeah, but if a sharp person gets their accounts, they catch on very quickly that it's not that it's someone else.
And they'll shut down again.
They'll just restrict them in whatever area they're betting sharp in, you know, and keep everything else open.
Yeah, and that's the worst. I mean, I think we've spoken about this in the past, Chris, but when you get an account, you may go on a downswing, and you not even given the opportunity to get even in that account.
Yeah.
Like, how wrong is that? We'll take your money and then we won't let you win it back.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's false advertising in a way. Because bookies are advertising on everybody's TV screen. Come bet with us, come bet with us, come bet with us. You can win. Well, not really.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. They should really have a big disclaimer at the end of every bookmaker ad, you know, big text and slow, you know. if you win, you will be restricted. You know, we only take losing punters. Because imagine everyone would watch the ad and go, what?
Yeah. And just on that as well, like, just for the audience, I'm obviously not a professional myself, but I have been following professional services for the better part of a decade now. So I've sort of seen a lot of them, and I've experienced this myself. When you get the email letting you know that you've been restricted, it's so bland, and like it doesn't explain anything you've done wrong, or you know why you've been restricted. And if you reach out to customer support, you get the same answer every time. It's we're within our rights to do this. And sometimes they say we literally don't have to offer you an explanation.
Yep.
It's like it's just hard to fathom.
Yep.
It
is sickening. So look, when I was betting $5 a bet for 3 years while I was studying markets and getting used to them. My first account was a Bet365 account. When I finally started to, you know, really work out the maths behind the Greyhound market and winning, I'd never read that people got restricted. I actually didn't know. I didn't actually really communicate with anyone else that was betting. This was just a little side hobby that I had. You know, I enjoyed analysing the data. When I got restricted with Bet365 after about, you know, I probably had 3 losing years with the account, small losing years, and then 1.5 years of winning, and I actually won a really decent amount. They restricted me, and you know, I didn't even check the email. I just logged into the account, tried to place a bet, wouldn't work. You know, called them, what's going on? My account's not working. You know, they said, oh, we've decided that, you know, we no longer want your business. And I just thought, what do you mean? You know, I put years of work into solving it, you know, into trying to win, and now you're telling me I can't win. It was, you know, I was just, you know, at that point in time, I was like, I should have spent those 3 years studying the stock market, doing backtesting on, you know, data analysis on forex trading, because at least with there I can get set for, you know, whatever amount I want. So that's the most frustrating thing about it. Not even knowing and putting all the time into it, and then just getting shafted at the end. You know.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, you know, where it's going to get to, really, doesn't it? Like, you know, like you say, you didn't know that was a thing when you started, and you might have not even got started if you had known. So that's an interesting point.
But that's the beauty of it now. I feel like more and more people are talking about it, and like the rise of probably even services like ours, that more people are winning and therefore experiencing it, is becoming more talked about, and that forces like legislators to actually have a look at this, because the current, you know, lawmakers, probably in the industry, I think it's fair to say, from a punter perspective, haven't been protecting the people. So, you know, more people going through this, more people talking about it and being unhappy about it forces change, and minimum bet laws is one small part of that. But hopefully, and I've got a lot of confidence that in the coming years it's going to get better and better, you know, for punters. And you know, we are talking about the grim side, but you know, to, you know, prospective people thinking about following a service in this space, what I will say is still a lot of winning in an individual. You know, you can still win a good amount of money before you're exhausted of all your options. But in saying that, we just need more accountability for books, I think.
Can you just on that? Can you talk about you know, you've got a number of successful members that have been with you for your whole time. So it's, like you say, it's not all doom and gloom. There are ways around it. But can you speak to the way that you know, your accounts can be managed to some degree to keep them alive longer? So for example, you know, if someone's got 100K and they deposit that into a book and they start slamming your bets, they're obviously going to get banned pretty quickly. But are there ways to get around having, well, at least create longevity in some of those accounts?
There definitely is ways, and there's ways that can help you keep accounts live for a very long time. And you know, one of them is betting across multiple sports and racing. Because look, the bookmakers class individual punters. You know, if you're betting, you know, UFC, NBA, AFL, Greyhounds, and horses, it's very likely they're going to initially put you like mug. You know, this guy, this is going to be a great account. You know, send him promotions, do whatever we can to keep him. And then on top of that is, you know, a good way to hide wins is by backing something and then laying it off on Betfair, and you're basically doing a transfer of money. You know, you want it to lose, and you know you don't want it to win, so that
something
the bookmaker,
backing something without playing EV.
You know, and that's a way that can help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, so there is ways to definitely keep accounts alive for a lot longer.
Yeah. So that's, you know, something we preach about at Tip Titans a fair bit is the diversification of your betting portfolio. So that's why we sort of look to have we look to have all these professionals on our platform from different jurisdictions, and you know, if you couple them up together, and you can actually look like a mug despite following guys that are professionals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you talk about that. I mean, diversification is really important if you're talking about sustainability. And so if you can diversify in a way that's not going to get you slapped with losses. I know, like, a couple of our long-term Bet with Joel clients have started using Tip Titans for the tennis and things like that. Like, we're talking highly liquid sport, you know, global sports, just to turn over money. And if they win, it's a bonus. So they've been doing that and getting a lot of success with it. So that's definitely opened my eyes to actually the advantage of diversifying. And hey, if they can win as well, I mean, that's even better.
Yeah.
So you're saying turnover without necessarily winning is a good way to keep the account going?
Yeah, I mean, it is, because, and like Chris mentioned, multiple sports is a great way to go, but if you're turning over more money on larger markets, and you might have high edge markets you focus on, and that's where you generate most of your income. But then if you can turn over money without, you know, generating a loss from that, I mean, that's a big win, because it's going to help your winning sustainability.
Yeah. Just another thing quickly on that too is another way to help your account last. And look, I'm not saying this is something everyone should do, because it is a higher risk play. But if you're ever, you know, if you've got 3 tips across 3 codes from 3 tipsters, multi-betting 3 overs selections, so 3 long-term profitable bets. So say you got 3, you could do a treble, which bets on each double combination of the 3 plus the 3. That's actually more profitable long-term because the edge multiplies by the edge in each of the over scenarios. And multis are very good for making an account look mug-like, because, you know, everyone loves putting a multi on. So the thing with that is you should be staking much lower than what we recommend staking with the singles. However, it's a good way to also help your account with longevity multis. I've found, you know, because bookmakers just instantly go, so, you know, he's putting multis on
Across different codes.
And it's hard for them to, you know, they're not, when a multi's on, they're not checking the odds you got compared to what the start price was on Betfair, because it's a multi. Where with singles, that, you know, they do sort of check that a bit more. They went, hey, this guy backed this at 9, started at 6, you know, that's sharp.
I'm not even sure if they measure multis
Yeah.
and closing odds.
Yeah. Until you hit one really big one, and then they shut accounts down when you hit
I'm
big
not sure,
multis.
but definitely a great way for account sustainability. And as Chris alluded to, if you're getting you know, multiple picks with edge in them, or a margin your way, and you're multiplying those together, it's actually a higher percentage play. You've just got to manage variance.
Yeah. You're going to be losing a lot more when you do win this.
You've got to manage your variance really well, which is important. And, you know, that's one of the hardest things I know for some of our followers, is managing their bank. So
and they're essentially just become marketing companies fighting for market share rather than actual bookmakers. You know, I don't know if they even hire guys that know their markets anymore. They're just fighting for market share using things like promotions and bonus bets and things like that. So I know you guys probably don't have any of them applied to your accounts anymore, but what do you sort of think about that whole landscape at the moment of, you know, of
Yeah, look, personally for my style of betting, because I don't use any promotional, markets, I'm just positive EV on the straight odds that the bookmaker offers. I go, this is the probability of this occurring. The odds they're offering are above that. That's profitable long term without even taking promotional stuff into play. Now, promotions therefore are detrimental to me, my members and my service, because it's basically money that the bookmakers are willing to give up, for free or, as a promotion, rather than using that money to pay out the sharp people, and adjust their odds because, based on those bets. It just seems like a whole chunk of money that should be going to the sharp punters, rather than them just trying to win new people coming in. But yeah, I'm personally against it, but I do know that people do well out of those things as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's a tool. It's a bookmaker tool to keep people that perhaps shouldn't be betting as much as they do, keep them betting. So it's a dangerous tool. It gets obviously a lot of stick from activists against our industry, and it gives our industry a bad name at times because it's a tactic used only to entice losers. So, that in itself speaks for itself, and obviously Chris and I aren't losers and our followers aren't, so it doesn't give us any advantage at all. That's my take.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I've seen a bit of chatter across the socials, and it's generally from more old school guys, I think, that have been around the industry for a long time, but they're of the belief that let's get rid of all these promotions and let's drop the minimum bet laws and things like that. Let's open so like you said, Chris, it's like let's promote, especially if you're not going to offer them to everyone. If it's only a select number of people, let's just do away with them and go back to it's probably never going to happen. But that's where the old school guys are at.
I do believe the market's heading that way. I believe a few states have banned any promotion of any sort. Because Adelaide's banned, aren't they?
I think we've just relaxed ours, to be honest.
I just unfortunately think that it's never going to help sharps. Do you know what I mean? If they can't entice losing punters back, well, then they're not making any more money from that. And I think, they've worked out that they're actually not giving money back. They've obviously got a net return on those bonus bets. So it obviously generates them more income. So if you take that away from the bookmaker income, well, I don't think they're going to be in a better position to take on more sharps at all. I actually think they've worked out, well, if we give $100 bonus bet to this guy, we're going to net X of real money. So it's a profitable situation for them. So, and I know obviously taxes are going up for books and they're just passed on to the punter. So we need some kind of solution that's going to, help bookmakers still be genuine businesses, but allow them to offer a fair market to more people and winners. So it's an interesting debate.
So you can use this question to sort of give a shameless plug to both of your services if you need, but we're seeing a growing number of, how easy is it these days to start up a tipping service? You don't need much capital, you can do it all on social media, you don't need to be a face, there are some shady services out there, but then there are also some legitimate scams that are popping up everywhere. Like I see them all the time. I see them all through social media, which is really it's hurting the industry, obviously, not just us, it's hurting everybody. But what advice can you give to someone who maybe has never followed a service before, or is just looking to take their betting to the next level? What can you tell them to look out for in a good service? Like what do they need to do their research on? But B, how do they avoid the shady services and the scam services?
Look, my advice would be first, when looking at a service and analysing a service, you want a face and a name. You want to know who's behind the service, who's running it. Now, there's some services that are legitimate that, the professional doesn't want to be known. But in my experience, if there's no face, no name, no one willing to talk, like we're here, we're on video, our full names are out there. We stand behind our services because we trust in ourselves. And if I was going to start a shady tipping business, I wouldn't want my face on it. I wouldn't want my name on it, because I'd be scared of the repercussions. So it's an instant red flag. It's someone that, that's scared of the repercussions that could come their way, when you're not sending out profitable tips. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing, which always isn't a bad sign either, but the way bookmakers work, they offer affiliate deals with certain tipsters, and there's guys that will have a banner, a Ladbrokes banner on their website, and if you click that banner and sign up to Ladbrokes through them, then that person actually will get 30% of what you lose, every month as part of their affiliate deal. So it could be in their interest to send you losing tips, So just another thing to watch out for. There's definitely legitimate services with affiliate deals, which is fine, but it's just something to be aware of, when you're finding any.
It's an accumulation of all this information, and then making a judgment call. First and foremost, I think you need to be able to verify their performance. So what is their performance? Because usually, if you're looking at a tipping service, they're claiming a positive performance. Otherwise, you wouldn't be there in the first place. So how can you verify that performance? And I think that's something that Tip Titans does really well with obviously the blockchain technology and all of that, which is fantastic. But has there, say for example, if there's spreadsheets that are provided, have these been followed by a group of users for a long period of time? If you can't verify on blockchain, can you verify in another way? Super important. How long have these guys been around? A face is a massive thing. Just gathering all of this information, even jumping into, and you may not be in a position to make this call, but reading into the methodology and how they do things, does that also stack up as well? And then we've had a number of members reach out to us and ask about other services. Can we have a look into them? And I just think an accumulation of all these things, if you come across one or two red flags, there's a good chance it's for good reason, because what I can say, it's very difficult to win. To overcome a bookmaker margin and make money on top of that sustainably, you have to be very, very good. And what you spoke to before, Christian, what's the barrier to entry for somebody to start up a tipping service? Nothing. From their bedroom, and that's where hopefully services like Tip Titans, hopefully people speaking on podcasts like this or videos like this that's how the punter can differentiate who's real and who's not.
And something I wanted to add to that, I feel like if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. Just to your point about it's really hard to win. So like looking at those metrics is really important. If they seem inflated, they probably are. Just like the other way around.
Yeah, and also you want them to be talking about bankroll management. How many this is the number of units you should have in your bankroll. Risk. You want a good risk management with any tipping service. You want them to clearly outline that sort of information. Avoid. We were just talking in the car yesterday. About the terminology strike rate. So when you look at a tipping service, strike rate is irrelevant because a strike rate of 90% means nothing if you're backing $1.05 shots all the time. Profit on turnover is pretty much the main metric that you should that's a very good metric, profit on turnover.
Return on investment or cumulative investment.
I
do see, in saying that, like, on the contrary, I've seen pages that I know are clearly not legitimate winners, start to copy the terminology that's used in a way to trick people. And so, again, it just comes down to, really doing your thorough research. If you're not the right person to make the judgment call, find someone who is. And start small with every service, You don't need to go all in, give it a period of time testing the service if it comes from a space where you're not sure.
I think another thing that's really important is the service talking about the long term? Are they talking about the massive day they just had and you need to jump on board now? Is it, or are they?
Yeah.
You know, we use the slogan "Trust the process" a lot. Like it kind of gets boring, but it's incredibly true, isn't it? Like you like you just said, Joel, you can't just jump on a service and sack them after a week. It's really about the long term and the process.
If you're judging any service on a week or a month or even longer, you know, you're probably not in the business for the right reasons, and you're probably not going to last. Like, great point, Christian, because people view certain sample sizes of picks as more powerful than they are. Like, any tipper that's got a fantastic return over 300 picks, if the listener today might think 300 picks is a lot of picks, it's really not. You know, anyone can win over 300 picks, and the best bettor in the world can lose over 300 picks. So, you know, with Bet with Joel, I mean, we've got a sample size now of over 10,000 picks. You know, that's starting to get to the level that you can trust, you know, and I understand people have to take us on trust before getting to that point, and that's why you have to do all those things before. But in terms of judging purely on performance, don't take runs into account for more than they're worth.
You can't win without losing. There's going to be negative variance, there's going to be downswings. It's impossible to win in any form of trading on the planet, whether it's stocks, forex, sports betting, racing betting. There's always going to be downswings. It's part of variance. And profit. Even if every single bet you place is profitable long term, you can easily lose 20 bets in a row.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
You know, I've been recording for 6 years, and it's probably happened 7 or 8 times. You know, where it's been 20 straight losses in a row or more. You know, so
and it still hurts.
Yeah, it still hurts to this day. So,
but like, I know I was speaking to Chris yesterday about, you know, the most difficult thing to be a successful investor in this space is mindset and being able to withstand those swings. And we all often, you know, sometimes chat about how difficult those swings are, but we should actually be grateful for those swings, because if those swings didn't exist, everybody could do what we do. Do you know what I mean? And so those people that can trust the process of winning service, endure the swings, you know, those are the profitable investors in the betting space, and the profitable investors is, you know, in any space really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No different to when you're winning. You know, when you have those really, you know, sometimes in 3 days, you know, it can be an incredible 3 days. It can cover, you know, 3 weeks of losses in 3 days of winning. But it's important to always keep a level head, level mind. You know, variance is up and down, but, you know, technically what you're doing is very even over the long term. It's a slow and steady climb.
It's like you said before, it's like that in all markets really, isn't it? All types
every
of
market.
investing. You know, what's the disclaimer? All brokers will leave at the bottom about past performance.
Yeah.
Is not not guaranteed.
Not an indication of
future,
future
that's
performance.
The one, yeah. So it works the same in sports betting, just like it does in those markets as well.
It does. Yeah.
Just the last one, I've kept you guys for long enough, but just another one that I've seen recently floating around the socials, and it does seem to be with guys that are either inexperienced in betting in general, or maybe just at following services. But I've seen a few people saying, you know, if your edge is so good, if your tips are so good, why would you sell them? Why would you give them to other people? You know, why would you erode your edge? You know, can you speak to a bit about that? I know we sort of touched on why you started doing it in the first place, but that stigma in particular.
Yeah, it's a fantastic one. I love hearing that. It comes from people that clearly don't know the game themselves, because you know, one, all of the reasons we've just spoken about with bookmakers, you know, obviously, but then, you know, even if you are able to get on as well, you know, there is a certain level of liquid that any person is comfortable with as well. So once you're set, if there's still edge in the market, then that can be a tip, you know what I mean? And so unless you have unlimited capital, and don't get me wrong, we bet pretty hard by most people's standards on our own selections, and we get whatever we can get down. But once those resources are done, like we can only get a certain amount through certain accounts, then why not? Why not provide that information to a service of winners? So, yeah, I mean, I don't understand how people could think that if you've got this secret, that you can maximise this secret on your own, because it's not the case.
And the other thing is it's not like we're selling all of our knowledge and our exact analysis, and basically you can't sell our ability to find over selections, because that's built up over a long period of time and experience and work, and putting the hours in. Like we both feel more, we love running the tipping services we do. We enjoy the experience of helping other people. And we feel more, we both genuinely go on downswings that are much greater than the revenue we're earning, from the tipping services.
100%.
We don't feel bad at all about us losing money. We feel bad when the tipping service is going on a bad run, because all all we care about is what's best for our followers. The good thing about that is both of our businesses have long-term clients that have been on 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they stay on because they're happy, because they realise, wow, these guys are actually legitimate. Yes, they have downswings, but long-term they're winning. This is great. I'm learning so much from these guys, and that's what makes it worth it for us.
They say like being a pro bettor is a lonely game, and that's 100% the truth. 100% the truth. And so to be able to build and we've had some clients that will change their lives, through the money they've made. We're talking about normal people. We've seen bankrolls grow, people that have been with us for 4 years. Bankroll started with $5,000, they're in 6 figures. And what that's allowed them to do is, that's rewarding. And no, we couldn't have got every single dollar of value on every market that we tip along that journey. So why not? Why not give some back to the people? Take some from the bookmakers, who we've all said probably don't act as diligently and as fairly as they should. It's part of the enjoyment we get from, I get, and I'm sure Chris is the same, from what we do.
And just one other thing quickly, if us two just bet bet ourselves, we've got 2 people opening up, accounts with bookmakers. What if we provide value to others? We've got 100 people opening up bookmaker accounts and smashing the books. We're taking a lot more off the bookmakers running this than we ever could just betting ourselves.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah.
It builds that community as well, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I've seen both of your Telegram groups, particularly when a nice winner
Yeah.
lands. It's like,
It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh,
The community's really nice.
It's
Like
brilliant.
you said,
The
it
happiness.
makes it not lonely. You're talking, you're communicating, you're teaching. It's enjoyable.
It's how is that so hard to believe that you would be passionate about teaching others? It's why people become a teacher, or why people teach anything in any other field. They get into education because it's an enjoyment process, and it's the same for us in this space. And it definitely provides some of that give back feel, but also it's just rewarding from a personal perspective, being that side of the game rather than it just being all about money and just yourself. And it's like I said before, it's definitely more fulfilling.
We've assembled the best lineup of sport analysts on the planet. The best in the business of betting, staking their reputation on your returns. Verified winners over the long term. Now, they're doing what they do best for you. Tip Titans. Don't just bet. Invest.
So for this part of the pod, I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into sort of what makes your services, so successful, and perhaps you can, this is sort of for the guys that are potentially looking to, follow in your footsteps, essentially, like guys that think they might have an edge, or they look just like what you said, Chris, about when you first started doing it. I think there are some contrasting factors between the way you guys go about it naturally, given different jurisdictions, but I've got no doubt there are some similarities as well. So Joel, let's start with you. If you could sort of put into words, put it down onto paper, take it out of your head, how would you define your edge on the market in both NBA and AFL?
Yeah, and it differs probably in both. Where, you know, it was built and has changed over a period of time as well. You know, we obviously, it's not just me that bet with Joel team, but you know, it started as just me, and a lot of obviously intangibles that are built over time, and understanding a sport to such a level that not many can. So we get our eyes, me and my team, across every single game of the season in real time, which is what the market or even bookmakers don't usually do. They don't watch games like we do. So that gives us a specialised expertise. It's hard to find, but then obviously understanding how to price markets effectively. You know, for us in both sports, we do all of our own lines. We price our own markets, and we do that blind before we look what the market is. And so what that does is, based on all of the data that we can gather that's publicly available, off all of that, plus our specialised knowledge, if we can generate efficient pricing that's more efficient than bookmakers, we can find basically where we believe there's an edge in the market, and those are the positions that we send each day to members and that have generated a positive return over the last 4 years.
Yeah. So you know, we always talk about it. We definitely have different ways we do things, because you know, the whole reason I was drawn to Greyhound racing was, you know, just thinking about it as a concept. I thought, hey, you know, the data, just using data for greyhounds is probably going to be, you know, it's probably going to be the easiest racing, you know, race type for me to focus on to begin, to see if I can beat the market. And I was right. It's very data based. You know, I do you know, all of New Zealand and Australia. So there's 700 races a week. You know, an average of 6 to 7 dogs per race. So, you know, every single day I web scrape all of the data off the internet, put it into my database, and then basically I have, you know, many ways that I analyse that data. And what I can do just by analysing that data is calculate a probability of each dog winning, of each dog placing, of each dog, you know, running top 2, top 4, and then I can basically say, well, this is the break-even odds. And then if the bookmaker odds, you know, however much better the bookmaker odds are than those break-even odds, you know, that's a tip. That's a profitable bet long term.
Mm-hmm.
And so just completely data driven.
Yeah, that's probably where our services differ a little bit. Whereas Chris is completely data driven, and probably the way you analyse the data is really important as well. Interpret that data. Ours relies as well, and I spoke about the specialised expertise before, but you know, bookmakers are very good at pricing, you know, markets where the teams are going in as usual. You know, factors are pretty standard. The weather in AFL might be sunny and normal, or in the NBA, the starting lineups will all be playing. But when things change that aren't seen as often, they don't have as much data to get efficient pricing and efficient lines from. And that's where our specialised expertise can get an edge, you know. And so we send early mail, we send late mail, because things are always changing, you know. And so that's where we get an edge that data alone can't provide.
That data doesn't exist.
Data doesn't exist.
And so
not data with enough of a sample size to take seriously. You know. And so that's where there is still a human element. That's the beauty of betting. You know, there are winners. Like there is a human specialised expertise element of it. You know, there are pros out there that still have that, and that's what we do rely on a fair bit with our service.
Yeah, and he's right in saying even in you know, even though I use big data, I have to use a combined method using data and a human. It's better than just using straight formulas, and I've used machine learning software to try and backtest certain, you know, completely automated algorithms, and it's not as profitable as having a human and and data combined. You know, the human brain is actually incredible. It's amazing how it's about, like, you know, how you're able to analyze data. And me specifically, I graph the data in a way that, you know, the mind can analyze much quicker than any computer algorithm or program for now. I don't know where computers and AI and machine learning is going to go in the future, but I do believe that it's got a long way to go before it comes close to what the human brain is capable of analysing and seeing with so many data points.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's coming from my perspective, someone who's not a professional like you guys, I think that's like something that's it's like we want to know, we want to know how you guys do it, and I know everyone does it differently, but I just find that stuff really interesting if you can break down the barriers between your members and you guys as a service. Like I know for a fact, like when you guys are going on a winning run, or people are going, how are they doing this? Or like, when you hit this ridiculous prop in the NBA, it's like, how did he do that? Why? Like, how did he? I just think that's people want to know that stuff.
And the thing is like, and a lot of recreational bettors will often look at some base level data to try and gain an edge. And base level data can sometimes get into more trouble than it can do good. Like, say we'll send sometimes a pick for a player to have, say, 10 plus assists, and he hasn't done it once this season. So the average bettor will say, well, why the hell would you bet that? It has never happened this season, right? And if it loses, we might get a message from somebody saying, why the hell would you bet that? Bloody idiot.
Even I knew that. Like.
Yeah. Why am I following you when you're giving me, like this? But it's about understanding what situations have changed and being able to predict the future before it happens. Because on the contrary to that, and this happens all the time, we will tip a player to have 10 plus assists in a change situation at a huge price, and 2 weeks later, because of that change situation, that price will have moved from $12 to $2.50. And so we have to see that situation changing ahead of time, whereas books now, 2 weeks later, have seen the past data, and now that $2.50 we don't bet anymore because it's actually under the true probability of that happening. So just a little trick for those people just looking at baseline data, just to not read too much into it to get themselves into trouble.
Yeah. Another thing just on that, where how you were saying you like seeing a prop bet or something that long odds that gets up. What followers need to remember is, if I tip something to place at $9, which I've done before, I might only believe it's a true 6-1, right? So it's still going to lose 5 out of 6 times, but the one time it wins, everyone thinks, oh,
you're a genius.
You're a genius. But I'm thinking, well, it just hit the 1 in 6, So we just got lucky and hit the 1 in 6, but we're getting paid 9. So, it's funny, as you get used to it, you sort of learn that those real roughies that get up, they were still rough chances to win, but they was, the chance was still better than what the odds, were available. But they're the ones that always get everyone excited, because you're thinking, wow,
absolutely. How often do you review that edge and adjust that edge or the perceived edge that you've got? Is it sort of based off of your results, or is it more of a proactive thing that you'll constantly do?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really important that you're continually assessing your edge. And a simple way for us to do that is against closing line. What are our picks doing against closing line? So regardless of positive or negative performance, if, say for example, we were picking a lot of selections and the market was going the other way, then it makes us review our process, because we go, well, why? Markets are usually moved by more informed punters or bettors, professional bettors or syndicates. So if the market is going against us, we need to review our process. And one of our validation methods on what we're doing isn't just positive performance, but it's actually our performance against closing line.
Start price, yeah, same thing. Look, variance is a sick puppy. People would be shocked at how far variance can go, one way and the other. It truly is one of those mathematical, confusing things where you just think, how is this possible? But looking at closing price, for me, Betfair, with racing, Betfair is a great indication of how you're performing. whatever price you send out, if Betfair starts below that, it's a very, very good chance that that's a profitable bet long term. So yeah, that's one thing. And then, over every 1,000 picks, there's a good chance you should be winning over 1,000. But it is possible that you can even go on a losing swing over that. But that, the more sample, the bigger the sample size, the more confident you are in your approach.
This NBA season was a great example of where we, adjusted a little bit based on what we were seeing in certain performance metrics, and we found certain statistical plays that we were going really well in, and then others we were struggling in. And so it just makes you, while you can't take it on, you can't over adjust. You need to be careful of over adjusting. You still need to make slight adjustments based on the data that you're seeing. You lean into the areas that you seem to be doing better in, and that the metrics say you're doing better in, and then maybe pull back on some other things that you might just not be getting right at that time. So critically important to always analyse your edge.
Yeah, and on that same train of thought, you've both had very successful services for long periods of time, which is a testament to sort of the way you go about it. As we know, longevity's incredibly difficult in this industry, and it's something all pros want. But if you can sort of cast your mind back to when you first started doing this, do you think much has changed in terms of your processes and routines, or is the bones still there and you're just constantly, as you said, adjusting little things on the go, or have there been wholesale changes?
Look, my general process, or I guess the way I think hasn't changed a single bit, because I've just focused on the probability, me calculating what the probability of the outcome occurring is, and then looking at the odds and taking advantage of it. However, I've improved at just following that same process over the period. I'm constantly getting better and better. New bet types coming out, same race multis, when they were launched, extremely profitable. And not only were they profitable, Sportsbet were letting you get set for a long time, and not, they were very slow on the restrictions because it was a new product. I don't think they realised, how much we were taking them for until they did, and then they just, they increased their VIG by a massive amount, and I'm pretty certain it's just because of the Greyhound service that we were running, and not only that, they would start restricting people who were betting. They would just take same race multis off the account. So, I adapt. If new bet types come in, because of the way I process the data and analyse the data, I'll always, if there's an edge in any new bet type, I'll have it straight away because of the way I analyse the data.
Yeah, for us, it's really just about automating more if we can. It was very manual at the beginning. So the more we can automate, the more we can dive in and explore edge more. And so if we can get more data in to help us, we've done that, and we're a long way from where we were in the way we price markets, which is really important to us, and how we gain an edge and measure ourselves. So I guess it's just like little tools and organisational methods, and the way you do things it's come a long way, definitely. And if you're not continually improving, I think you'll pretty quickly get left behind. So it's an ongoing process and something you just have to do if you're going to be a professional in this field. Yeah.
So what advice can you offer someone who's trying to emulate your footsteps? Like I said before, if they're thinking I think I might have an edge on the market or something like that, or they're really trying to put some time into finding an edge, and you don't have to necessarily answer in regards to the way that you study data or the way that you both sort of crunch the data, but what other skills do you need to be able to be successful as a pro?
Look, I'd say it's very important to record and then analyze, whatever you think is profitable, put it in a database, put it in an Excel spreadsheet, write it in, put the result in later, do that for every single time you believe there's an edge, and the best way to know how you're going is to really spend time analysing what you did in the moment before the moment occurred, and then that'll help you improve immensely going forward. Just constantly analysing the past performance. What you did, what decision you made when.
100%.
That's my advice. Yeah.
And like effectively recording, like Chris mentioned, is so important. And then if you can record in a way that's verifiable to the public, I mean, that's going to be a way that's going to be beneficial for you in the future. So, one thing I think would be really great for Tip Titans to do is open up that blockchain tool to prospective punters to be able to record their selections on the blockchain and create a verifiable record. And that's something, people that want to be professionals in this space, it's where you have to start, because if you don't record properly, you can't analyse properly, you can't review properly, and you can't actually see where you're at. And if you do believe that you have an edge in this space, and you've probably had some success to believe that, then you just need to start compiling a sample size that's sufficient to measure.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about the blockchain, isn't it? Like, I go through I find a lot of services, and I go through my processes trying to figure out whether they're any good or not, and it's quite often it's the spreadsheets or even just sometimes it's a lack of spreadsheets, it's a lack of results or verifiable results that really just turns you off. So, I mean, that's a bit of a shameless plug again to the Tip Titans platform, but to be able to have every single pick that is ever sent out to members recorded on the blockchain, it's just a really powerful way to just be that step ahead of your competition, to have all your picks verified.
I think it's a great way for punters to be able to build trust in an industry that we said there's no barrier to entry, there's no reason why somebody can't back record any spreadsheet.
Yep.
There's no verification of that. So for Tip Titans to be able to timestamp on the blockchain when these picks were sent, all of those types of things, I think it speaks to where the industry not only I feel is going, but really needs to go to add legitimacy in the tipping space. Because one of the things when I entered this space, it was so grey, so shady operators, and nobody knew how to distinguish one from the other. And so hopefully Tip Titans can be a good voice in this and a good reason for change in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on the absolute flip side of that now, what about someone who might have been a recreational punter for however long, and they're losing and they're sick of losing and they want to start following a service, and they're looking around? What skills do you think they need to have, or at least work on, prior to signing up to a service? And what I mean by that question is what mental skills do you need to have in terms of being able to withstand variance and things like that? But then also physically, what sort of bankroll do you need to have? How do you use that bankroll properly? What sort of skills do you need to have to follow a service properly?
Yep. Well, you've pretty much just touched on it there. Whatever this, contact the service and say, if you generally say, what sort of bankroll do you recommend as the minimum starting bankroll? And, the most important thing you can do is listen to that professional. They're going to say, right, this is what I recommend is the minimum bankroll. This is the number of units you should have, you should use in your bankroll. And all I can say is the most important thing in the entire game, more important than even finding winners, is sticking to a very safe risk management, bankroll management. Same as traders, you speak to all the most successful traders on the planet. The main reason that they succeed is because they stick to a very strict risk management plan. It's no different. That's the number one most important thing for sure. Yeah.
The number one bettor in the world will go broke if he doesn't manage his bank.
Yeah.
It's a term that I tell a lot of people because it's true. You need to be resilient because there will be swings inevitably. and we see clients' longevity with our service based upon the timing of when they got on, because it's obviously much easier to jump on at the beginning of an upswing and then you're playing with the house's money, whereas some people may jump on at the beginning of a downswing. And so if you can set yourself up for whatever happens, if you've done your research properly and verified a professional, that's the first step, because you shouldn't be listening to someone that's not a professional. So first step first, make sure they're good at what they do, and then, like Chris said, ask that person, and be prepared to go the distance. If you're going to undertake something, go the distance. A week, a month, that's not good enough. Go the distance and see it through, and you'll usually go pretty well.
Yeah, you know, we see guys jump on the platform and sign up to a service, and they might last a week or a month or 2 months, and sometimes they win over that period, and their results showing that they should be winning. But for the ones that jump on and lose and straight away and just think, oh, this doesn't work, it's like, I think you need to have a mindset before you even commit to signing up to that service. So if you jump on, you pay your sub, and you might lose however many, like say you lose 10 units of your 100 unit bankroll, or say you don't have the bankroll to begin with, you're not only down that money, but you also aren't going to give yourself the chance to enjoy the profits. And you know, if you join the service on the downswing, but you've done your research, it's a long-term winning service, they're inevitably going to have an upswing. Yep. So you've jumped on the downswing, you've lost the money, you've lost the sub money, and now you're not going to recoup it.
Yeah, you're killing yourself 3 times over.
That's it.
Yeah. And through, you know, we've seen through my service, we've seen thousands of clients come through, and the reality is we have only a certain number of 100 clients today. And those clients that are still with us, and we've had, you know, some of those clients that have been with us for 4 years, they've made 6 figures of profit, receiving the same service as thousands are no longer on. You know, they've received the same service. It's just a different approach. Those couple of thousand didn't take it seriously, didn't manage their bank. And these 400 or 500 that have are reaping the rewards long term. So, you know, it's funny how a certain mindset or taking something the right way, it puts you into completely different outcomes. And we see it every day with our service.
Yep, very good. Well, guys, thanks again for coming in. It was a really good chat. It's getting seriously hot in here. I don't know if you guys are feeling that heat as well. I'm not sure if that's because of the great content. I appreciate Chris and Joel coming in again, and we'll look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Beautiful. Thanks, Christian. Yeah, it's great to be in.